Hello, beautiful people, and happy Pride. Hey. I'm Salenna Green, and this is the Hot Girls Healing Podcast. You are here for another amazing episode where I'm going to be talking to some beautiful people about what they do and how they're healing. If this is your first episode, welcome. So happy that you found your way into this space. I hope that you get something from it. If you've been listening since season 1, hey, best friend. I'm happy that you're still with us. So today I'm talking to an absolutely lovely couple that really cares about the community. And you'll know that from this conversation, but also just from what they do. Like they have turned their life into something that is beneficial for all of us. And I'm always so grateful for people like that because I'm benefiting from their work. If you are Black, you are benefiting from their work. If you travel, you are benefiting from their work. If you're alive, you are benefiting from their work. So, yes, thank you so much, Marlie and Anthony Love of Traveling While Black. Thank you for joining me today to have this conversation about travel and specifically traveling while Black, right? Because that's how I travel every day. So, this conversation is so relevant to my life. Travel is something that I've always known I wanted to do. It's something that I didn't have access to growing up. And then by the time I did have the means to travel, I had all this anxiety that I had to work through that was like really tied to travel because of my own history. So, what they do, like their willingness to travel, to go somewhere first and see how it is, and to report it to the community is so important for our safety, our well-being, our holistic wholeness. So I want to give them an opportunity to introduce themselves. That's just how I know them. Okay. Now I'm gonna let them tell you a little bit more about themselves, and then we're about to start talking. Marlie and Anthony, please introduce yourself to the people.
So, we're Travel While Black, as Selena said. So weekly we travel to different locations in and around the Pacific Northwest, and we're starting to expand a little bit further out. And we let people know how we feel, or we rate our experiences and how we feel as a Black couple visiting there for the first time. We also rate the drive and how much fun you can have like within the destination as well. We've been doing the show since October of 2019, and we have 161 episodes.
161 episodes
So far. So excited to be here.
Yes, and I'm so excited to have them. If y'all can't tell, I'm like, but it's just because again, this means so much to me. It's extremely relevant in my life. I'm a traveler, international and domestic. Okay, I don't judge because I know there's some like, oh, if you're only traveling in the U.S. Okay, the U.S. is big,
Yeah,
baby.
yeah.
We 9 hours from the other side, so just traveling domestically in the U.S. does count as travel. I myself have been to, I've been to California. I went to Florida once, never again. I've been to, Oregon. I'm from Portland. But I was actually born in Washington. It's a thing. And then internationally, and I count some places as international that have been more recently colonized because the culture is still very different.
Yeah.
But like Puerto Rico, Hawaii, I've been to London. We just got back from Cancun. Arizona is a place that I really like for the warmth. Every single time I go to one of these places, I wonder, as we all do. There's that moment of anxiety where I'm like, okay, how am I going to be treated? Am I going to have to, advocate for myself in a space where I just want to relax and have a good time? I'm curious about was there any experience that led to you all wanting to take on, traveling while Black, or was it just your own love of travel?
I think really it was, like you said, those anxieties, being Black, those questions, we kind of looked at it as like questions, that all Black people have. That's what we had. That's really what inspired us to start our show. we were new to Seattle, and when we were doing our research, we couldn't find a perspective that really spoke to those concerns. And so when we got up here and we wanted to do something to keep us busy, really, we thought, wait, there's a question that still isn't answered. So we wanted to sort of be that resource, and then that's kind of what began our mission.
Definitely. I will say we did a quick day trip up to Vancouver, British Columbia in September of 2019. It was the first time in Canada, and I remember Googling, like, are there Black people, like, in Canada? Like, I didn't even know, because we had never been in that part of the world. And so on the way back, we were like, you know what, that was nice, and it would have been awesome to learn more things. And we were sitting in line at customs, and we didn't even realize, like, oh, this is how long you have to sit in line at customs to come back into the U.S. So there were so many questions, even though we have traveled a lot. So we were like, let's be that resource, like Anthony said, for people.
That's why we like to divide our show. So our long form content, YouTube show, we divide up in 3 segments, so we can focus on, those little segments of questions before we even get to the big question, so we kind of give those little details on how you get across customs in Canada, but also that other question. Yeah, I think that's, how do we fit as Black travelers?
That's extremely relevant. I forgot that I've been to Canada, but yes, I forgot because I spent so long at the border. That's
yeah.
A long line, get back in. I was like,
I remember it was daylight when we got to that line. It was definitely dark when we were entering Canada. So I don't know how many hours passed, but the sun set and
wow.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
But it's worth it.
It's worth it.
Wow, yeah, that's interesting because there are so many different little things that you need to consider when traveling. And Blackness does, tend to affect those things. Like, how are we going to feel, sitting in this space? Like, I had questions. I was like, what they checking up there?
Right.
They didn't stop my passport. I'm like, you made me forget. Where's my stamp? So, yeah, absolutely. Wow, so much growth though too, and over 100 episodes. Like, that's huge. Can we talk just for a second about some of the places that you've been to? Like, I know I've been following y'all for a minute, and I know 2019 was a year where things were really, really heightened racially in the United States. And so I do wonder, what were those early experiences like when you're like, hey, we're a travel group, and
Totally. I guess I say, like, even at the beginning. So our first episode was at Bellwood Farms, like apple picking, and we had never done that before. So we're like, why not try it in Seattle and stuff? But I think in 2019, people didn't really understand what our show was about, like, at all. They were like, traveling while Black, what does it matter? What do you mean you have to do Black travel? And obviously we understand it, but like the broader community was wondering what we were doing until May of 2020, when the Black Lives Matter movement was really got jump started again. That's when we were like, oh, now we kind of understand what the show is about. So it was kind of like a resurgence, but it was still during COVID, so it was a weird.
It's kind of still weird to kind of move around during that time. I think our first bad. It was really cool. We were learning places that for real, like, we look outside of Seattle. The state of Washington is totally different. You think about Seattle, you think of this liberal place where it's all, it's cool. But, outside of here, it's totally different. And so we were going to these places, and it had that kind of like look a little bit, but we were getting in there and we find these activities and finding out, oh no, this is pretty sweet. We get to realize the beauty. It took 50, it wasn't until episode 50 till we had our first bad experience.
Wow.
And it was a crazy experience, but then we did our research, and this would change this from starting doing a little research before we go. But when we did our research after we were there, after we had that experience, we found out that there were other Black people having these same experiences to even to a higher degree of like being threatened. Ran out of town. So, I mean, we kind of looked at it as like, okay, 49 places up until this point going, and half of them looked kind of concerning, but it wasn't. And there was this one. I think it's still a good enough percentage to keep us going.
I was going to say, that's a good track record.
Yeah,
That's really good. That's, yeah, I mean, it's so much juxtaposition in there. There's so much that you said, like, we're still having Black people come up missing.
Yes.
I was just scrolling on social media. A Black man left Spokane to go to Texas to visit his daughter, went missing in Portland. His body was found floating in the river.
Wow.
Right. So the things that we are concerned about are not for no reason.
Yeah.
The experiences that you had where things were a little, we have that intuition for a reason. Me and my husband, we love to also travel around Seattle because there's just so many cool things to do. And we always talk about when you travel east versus when you travel west.
Yeah.
Both very white, just slightly different energies on the east and the west side. We prefer the west, but yeah, like we've been over to like Port Townsend and Port Orchard, and it's so cute. It's so nice. We remember Port Townsend in particular. We're like, okay, very small, very white town. But we went there and it was so nice, so cute. They had the great shops. They had, the hiking. Our host, because we did, and a home vacation rental type situation. Our host was cool, So there are these places around Washington where you can have these great experiences, and it does just take, getting past a little anxiety or doing a little bit of research, as you've said, to really like be able to tap into so many more experiences that our fear would stop us from doing.
Absolutely. It's funny you said the east side. We were just talking to some folks last night when we first moved here, and people told us, don't go to the east side of the state. And but that was what's so dope about our show is because we had a partnership with the state of Washington where they told us to pick 5 places. We were intentional to pick a majority of places on the east side to go see because the east side is some of the best wine there are. In Chelan. Even Spokane has its charm, right? I mean, you go down there and you kind of get that kind of like small town feel, which kind of was a little bit reminiscent of the Midwest to us a little bit.
Oh, okay.
So, like the state of Washington itself is this unique place in this country. We have volcanoes, we have deserts, we have rainforests. You know what I mean? And this is stuff that was like naturally made. And so for people's hate, people's ignorance to prevent us from experiencing that, I don't think that's right. And I think that's why it's so imperative for us to like overcome these fears and these concerns and go and see these places and encourage more of us to be there so we can change the whole perception.
Yes. Oh my God. Absolutely everything you just said. Like, I love how y'all always say nature loves Black people. Because, we need to be reminded by it. Every time you say it, I'm like, they ain't never lied. Because it does. And we need that reminder. Like, we are indigenous people. Nature loves us. We have an inherent relationship with the land and, the trees and the wind and all of those things. And we can really get out of that. Like, I've heard, Black people say, oh, hiking is for white people, and I mean, I've heard that very sparingly, I will say, because if you're in the Pacific Northwest, okay.
Right.
Yeah.
What else you gonna do?
Yeah, exactly. Like, Black people here, we love hiking. So that's, but I have heard it. And it's like, no, like Traveling While Black said, nature loves Black people. And if you go out in nature and you release your fear to a certain extent, trust your instincts. There's so much that's out there for us. I ziplined for the first time, kayaks. There's just so many activities like that we, because Black people don't swim and, like we just hear this random statement said from somebody outside of our community. Next thing you know, someone else is perpetuating that in our community. And then people are internalizing those messages. No, it ain't true. My mama and daddy swim like fish, but I'm over here like, why would I then believe that Black people can't swim when I know that's not true?
Yeah, totally.
Now, can I swim as an individual? That's another question.
No, you can't. That's not gonna stop. You're still gonna be
I know some brothers and sisters that do.
Yeah, exactly. Most of my siblings are very good swimmers. My nieces and nephews know how to swim. I swim very well within my life vest. Okay.
There you go.
Yeah, we just took adult swimming lessons not too long ago because we were like, I mean, we
for the Galapagos.
Yeah, we were never really because in the Midwest, I don't know if it was in the Midwest or wherever, but it was like, yeah, Black people don't hike or Black people don't swim.
Yeah.
Right? And so even though we took swimming lessons as kids, we were never like swimming. Yeah. You know, so it's like, hold on, do I even know how to? You don't even know.
Yeah.
You don't do it.
You know what's funny is I didn't think about this till now when you said that people outside of our community saying these things that we let stick in our head. And I just think back, like, yes, I heard that a lot, but I never heard it from like my grandfathers or my uncles who are individuals that actually, you know, Winsfield, where I'm my hometown in the St. Louis area, is kind of country. So they actually would go out and hunt. They would hike. They would do this stuff that we would think would be white people stuff. Yeah. And they never told us we couldn't do that. We just didn't do that because the people outside our community indoctrinating us like, well, we're supposed to do that. Yeah. And then we start telling ourselves. And we really didn't get into hiking until we moved up here.
Yeah. Totally different people.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, see, my mom was from LA, and I mean, they were swimming. The water's right there. And then I was raised in Portland, and we were always at the community pool. Like, I took swimming classes 2 times when I was a kid. Now, I am who I am, and me and water, like, we've never been best friends. I'm really working on it. Like, I love a bath, but a natural body of water, I'm like, there's fish in there. I can see to the bottom. My feet aren't touching the bottom of the pool, which makes me feel very uncomfortable.
I understand. I get it.
Yeah, so I'm like, I have fears. And in Mexico, because I just went to Mexico to celebrate my birthday, and like, I really had to sit with myself for a quick moment because, you know, there's these new experiences, and a lot of them included water that was very deep. Like, we went to these, cenotes, which are underwater caves in Mexico, where the cave ceiling has dropped off. And so it's just like this huge pool of just really incredibly deep water where there is no bottom. And like, in my mind, I just, all these fears wanted to pop up and say, well, what if this happens? And what if there's this in the water? But I said, well, I'm a Virgo and I spend money. So I said, we ain't wasting my money, girl. Get in this water. And I did it slowly. I did it in a way that worked for me. Like, I don't like jumping into deep water. I'm going to ease my way in there. So I just did it in a way that works for me. And I really encourage Black people to do that. And that's what y'all are doing. You're doing it in the way that works for you. And it's beautiful and it's inspiring. And I love it.
Hey, thank you so much.
I wanted to talk a little bit about like the inner child healing that comes with travel, because I feel like, Anthony, you even kind of talked about a little bit with, where we're remembering when we were kids and how our elders engaged with the outdoors, and then considering how the messages we received as we grew up really countered that. And then, like, as adults, reclaiming swimming. Like, I'm actually looking for adult swimming classes too, because even though I've already done it in the past, like, I want to have confidence in it,
that's what it's about.
Yeah.
The confidence getting involved.
Yeah. So how has your page and your journeys, like, how has that affected your inner child and the healing that we experience as we live life the way that we should?
Man, that's a great question. Do you want to start first? I feel like we talk a little.
No, and I think for me, it's all about like really getting rid of the fears, 100%, because kind of like you, Salenna, like I get like a little nervous when I try like new things, and then I tell myself like, no, I'm just not gonna do it. And like before we started the show, I would, like, if I would feel uncomfortable, I just wouldn't do it. I'd just be like, no, I'm good. I'm just going to sit back or whatever. But, like, doing the show, I kind of have to force myself to do it, because I'm like, if I'm telling y'all to do it, I need to do it as well, And it's kind of like, wow, I'm a totally different person, woman, and, like, in a good way, where I'm like, oh, my gosh, Marge, you are, like, on this, what do we call, like, this dragonfly thing? In the Mashpi rainforest in Ecuador, where I'm like in the mountains, like 70 feet up, riding this little boxcar thing across, and I'm just like, what is happening? Like, I would never do this, and it made me like feel like I'm more confident in saying like my yeses and my nos, and my nos aren't based on fear; they're based on like no, I'm not going to do that. And I don't feel bad for doing that. But now I'm like, I don't know, just feel like more mature and
I
just
I
different
think
person.
when we went to Belize and we did the zip lining through the rainforest too, and I think that's when the first time I seen like the show really transform Marley through like everything she's saying. Because like when we walked up to this, I said, "Ain't no way Marley gonna do this." And first time, the first zip line, you actually let the instructor hook you up with him, and you go. But then the second time, so you're gonna go by yourself, and she did it. I was like, "Wow, that's old Missouri Marley went beyond this zip line in the jungle."
Right? I would literally be like, even I could think as early as like middle school, like going to like Six Flags and be like, "Hey, roller coasters," and like just be like, "Oh no, I'm good. I'm just gonna sit and like let everybody else do the roller coasters," right? And instead of doing it, and now I'm like, "Oh, I'm jumping on the zip lines, snorkeling, scaredly, and like big waves, and doing all these different things," and like I just feel more myself now. Like I feel like, oh, this is Marley. This is who I am, and that the show has really helped me do that. Yeah.
Oh my God, Marley, I hear you. Like everything that you're saying. Yes. Like you slowly start to realize like you're so much more powerful than what the world gave you credit for. Like you can do so much more than what anyone thought you were capable of. And including me, like when I'm in my own experience with it, because yeah, there's so much fear. Like there was a point when cuz when you go to the underwater caves, like for one of them, they have stairs that lead you down. Like those classic videos you see where someone's like, "Oh, we're going into this cave," channel or whatever. Like we were walking down those stairs, and as I walked down, the fear was rising. It was like, it was like a little. I was like, okay, instead of jumping in this water, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna walk. I'm gonna hike by myself all the way around to the end point, and I'm gonna just meet them there. It'll be super easy. It'll be super cute. Like I won't disrupt anyone else's time. But then I was like, again, that money that I spent. And then like beyond that, like, is that who I want to be? Do I want to come to the experience and then not even let myself try to experience it?
Yeah.
I said I'd rather do it scared. So that's what I did.
There you go. There you go.
And then you realize, oh, I survived, and that was really fun.
Yeah.
I can't do this. I'm gonna do it
again.
Yes. Yes. And then being able to make that informed no, because there was a time where I said, not for me, but I did try.
So. Yeah, I think that's a powerful thing, like the informed no, where you're like, okay, yeah, I know I'm not doing this off of fear. I just don't want to do this at this moment.
Yes.
And that's okay to choose a no based on you and not based on like the fear and anxiety.
That's so powerful. That's like a powerful no instead of a fearful no. And I think that distinction comes with, that self-knowledge that you get when you are in these situations in a safe way that is of your choosing. And, no one's like, I found out for me that I don't do well, especially with my anxiety, if I'm being rushed. Like if someone's making me move at their pace instead of mine, like sometimes I need a little time.
Yeah.
Little baby need a little time.
Yes. No.
Yeah, and I encourage listeners, like, do it at your pace, but be for real with yourself, right? Because if you're kidding yourself, like I've done it, I've come to a zip line where I didn't even try. I'll just I feel a tinge of uncomfortability, I'm out.
Right.
So you gotta learn how to push past your own discomfort.
Yeah. Even with like hiking too, like because we talk about that, and like someone might be listening, be like, I've never hiked, I'm nervous to take it. It's like, listen, you can turn around. You don't have to go all the way up to the payoff. Just go a little bit and go back down just to see how you feel and how see how you feel, and then you can next time you can go a little bit further and then come back and stuff. So
that's such good advice. What advice would you have for someone who's like afraid of travel, like? I feel like I'm answering the question a little bit with what I'm saying, but this is just something that I've noticed. I noticed in your videos, you do things that you like to do. Like when you go to these places, like honestly, y'all seem like my kind of people. I'm like, ooh, they went and got some wine. I'm like writing down where you got your wine at. Like you do things that you seem to genuinely enjoy in these places.
So, I'm sorry, could you repeat the question one more time?
Yeah,
Or
my
start thinking
question
about
is,
the
what would
why.
you?
Like, yeah.
No, yeah, I feel you. What would you say to someone who like wants to travel but is like afraid?
Oh, man. I mean, it sounds easy for me to say, but I mean, just do it. You know what I mean? I think everything we talked about to this point was about, overcoming those fears. Whether it's jumping on the zip line, jumping into a deep ocean, it's the same thing with travel, right? Sometimes you gotta, if you take your time, Marley was talking about the hiking, going just a little way. Same thing with travel 30 miles to a town you never been to on a Saturday that might have some local type of attraction. Start slowly there and then venture your way out. And then one more other piece of advice I would say if you're afraid to travel is find a good travel companion, whether it's a family member, a spouse, a best friend. Find someone else who you can go into these places with. Because for our show, being in a predominantly white state, going in, trying to look at it through a lens of as a black traveler, because we want to do it as a mission and a service, we go into some of these places where probably if we didn't do the show, we didn't want to deal with it, you know what I mean? But it makes it a lot easier because we can do it together. And I think even if it is outside of a show and just traveling, I think it'd be a lot easier to hop on your plane for the first time if you got another companion who, even if it's their third or fourth plane ride, they can at least give you that support to, encourage you to move on.
Yeah, no, I like that.
Yeah. That's huge.
Yeah.
I didn't even think of that, but I do that. Like, yeah, I travel like usually like my sister and my husband. Those are, if I'm not with one, I'm with the other. Like, it's almost like that person becomes like the constant with all the change. Cause like the change is what gives me anxiety. I don't really know what to expect if I'm going to a new place. I don't know, there's so many things I don't know, but having that one thing that I do know, it like brings a lot of peace.
Yeah. That is true.
Okay, saying that. I'm like not me turning my sister into a safety blanket.
Whatever helps, whatever gets you out that door and see those new experiences.
Life, our role is always continually changing. We might not even know the role we're playing sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you might be her constant,
right?
You might be her constant in certain situations too, So it's beneficial for like both parties where you just want to go out and experience something different and new.
Nice. Yeah, what has been the greatest benefit for y'all? Like, I think I want to ask this in two parts. Like, what's been the biggest benefit from your own travel? Because I assume you travel outside of the show too.
That's a great question. So it's funny, is our travel.
And then for the show specifically, what has been your greatest benefit?
Okay. So I guess so first it's travel in general, greatest benefit, and then travel for our show, greatest benefit.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So I guess for us personally, so we started the show 5 years ago. We've been together for
20
overall 20 years, and then married 12 years.
12 years.
That's why y'all so romantic.
Thank you.
That's what you call it.
Oh yeah, there's such a vibe between y'all. Like,
thank you.
Such a vibe.
Yeah. So I guess before we started the show, we would travel for sure, and I think that's kind of why we started the show. Or how can I say this? Where did we even go when we were before the show?
So before the show, we would travel. I tell you the truth, like my parents would take me places, right, growing up. But a lot of times it would be we had family in Chicago because we know from St. Louis area. We might go to Detroit. We got some family up there. Memphis, Mississippi, and really kind of that little corridor. But it wasn't until I met Marley that I think I even I took my first international trip with Marley when we got married. Our honeymoon was just to Riviera Maya, and then seeing how easy it was to get out the country. We did a lot of travel in Mexico. Every year we tried to do a Mexico trip. I think we went to Jamaica. So we did these trips, and it was through our relationship where it was opening up to that world of travel. So I think that's how we kind of got introduced before the show. Kind of fell in love with it before the show. But even while we were traveling like that, because we were traveling to get a break from work and get a break from real life, we didn't realize all the benefits, really. We didn't pay attention to all the benefits we were getting just from experiencing these different places. And again, that we saw it as just, hey, this is dope that we get to be here. But we didn't realize we were actually getting something more from it.
You know what I thought about too? Is like we would always take like weekend trips.
Yeah.
And so think about our show now and how like we would be doing it on the weekend. It's like, oh my God, that makes so much sense because we are already in like the pack up, head here, like drive a few hours and come back home like on Sunday.
And sometimes it wouldn't even be that far. Like we live is probably like 30 minutes from downtown St. Louis. Yeah. So we'll just take a weekend getaway just to go downtown St. Louis, post up in the hotel, and then go like during the day, go explore some parts of St. Louis we've never seen before.
Yeah. And always just meet random people.
Yeah,
while we were doing it. So. Nice.
All right.
Yeah. So that's been kind of cool.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Y'all like making me feel emotional right now for some reason, but I love to hear this because it's just like you really turned something that was beautiful and for you into something that you're willing to share with the whole community, and that's love. That is also your name. So,
thanks a lot.
That's so beautiful. I also really loved what I heard you say about like experiencing the other cultures because yes, again, something that I didn't really think about, but like that's part of why I love international travel and domestic travel so much because you get to see the nuances in American culture if you just go somewhere else.
Yes.
And there's so much variety in accents and, you know, even the food that we eat, the fruits that we eat in different states are different. And it's exciting to see. And then going international, it's the same thing, but even more dramatic. And I wonder if you had this experience too, because like the more I'm out here seeing these cultures and even seeing the nuance in Black American culture, it's just like the more I love our people, the more I love our culture, because I'm like seeing all these similarities from, you know, in Mexico. I'm like, oh yeah, and we kind of have a thing that's like that too. And you know what I mean? It's just, there's this richness and this interconnectedness that you're able to see when you go and when you travel.
No doubt. 100%. It's like people are gonna people. You know what I mean? So it's no matter if you're Mexico, United States, or whatever. I think so. We just did our road trip series. Our first episode actually is coming out tomorrow. June 2nd. It was like June 2nd. I was really excited. But like you said, there's even different cultures within America, and that's what stood out about this road trip for us. Like going into Kansas City, which we kind of a little familiar with, going into Denver. But then when we went to like Cheyenne, never been. Billings, Montana, never been. These are actually different cultures of people that have a different, like a way of living, a way of growing up. The wind is shot in Wyoming. We had no idea. It shut us down for 2 days. These people are used to it. You know what I'm saying? And so just
Billings, Montana, there's casinos on literally every corner. And it's like, what? Like, that's like normal where you go to the bar and then right there.
Or just like the next room.
The next room is a casino with like all you drinking
slot
for free.
Machines, free. Like,
this is America. Like you don't realize. You know what I mean? Yeah, I was like, this is. You think it'd be like Las Vegas? It's the only place like that, but no, it's totally different places. So
that's what was dope about doing the road trip because a lot of times, like especially like Billings and Cheyenne, Wyoming, we're gonna fly over that. You know, we're not gonna drive through there. But being in the car, and this is why we wanted to do it. You know, you have the opportunity to actually see these places you're passing through, and having the opportunity to stop and, you know, set up camp and experience these places and learn about the people. And that's what we got to do this road trip. That was pretty dope. And even in, you know, a couple of places or one of the places, if we did not really enjoy our time, we still enjoyed our experience because we learned something.
Yeah, totally.
I know that's right. Oh, that's so awesome too. I love that you're doing a road trip series because I feel like road trips in particular are, I think, a place where a lot of anxiety sits for Black people. Like flying, just going straight to your destination is one thing, but being on these roads can be very dangerous. And I think that is huge. I personally love road trips, but I do try to keep them short. Like, My road trips be day trips, and that's even because it's just not safe out here. And so I really commend y'all for doing that road trip, and I want to do more road trips. I think that when you do a road trip, it's like it's different, you know. It's like the difference between driving through your neighborhood and walking in your neighborhood, you know. Like you really do get to experience things much more deeply. I've always had this little fantasy of doing like a road trip in the South where, you know, so many of our people, or I mean, if you're African American, all of our people have roots, you know. And before, you know, the Great Migration, you know, my family was down there too, and we left during that time. But it would be so cool to go back and just see some of the places and, you know, stand in the places where my ancestors stood. I've never been able to do that. You know, my grandpa is the reason why we moved up to Portland. So, you know, there is like that tie for my family, our own personal history. But yeah, like I'd love to retrace the steps, you know, back to Ohio and then all the way back to the South. It would be so cool.
Do you mind me asking what actually brought your grandfather up to Portland?
He owned his own business, and so I think just work brought him up. He also he was divorcing from my grandma, so I think that also had something to do with it. He was like, "Let me go and get a little distance." So yeah. He's the reason why like my whole little family, or not little, because my mom and my mother and father definitely had kids, but you know, they're the reason why me and my 11 siblings are in the Pacific Northwest.
Wow, that's cool. We love hearing like the stories of how, you know, Black migration up here. Because it's obviously totally different from, you know, but these stories are so crazy that, you know, saying the Black migration, I guess anywhere, was really heavily influenced by industry, but you know, it's just pretty cool, the stories, you know. Like I said, it's different from what we used to.
Yeah, and that's why it's so cool to talk about, and it's cool to travel back. Like, I think that for Black people like me who didn't get to grow up really knowing our family in the South, like I never flew home South for the summer or any of that, just because my family, like, we weren't really connected. I had my grandpapa, that was it. Like, he was the only one from my extended family that I even knew of. And so it's just like this process of almost reclamation. It's like I'm learning more about my history, I'm learning more about myself, and it's so beautiful and it makes me really happy. And I think that travel obviously has influenced the Black experience very dramatically. Travel is how we got here. So like I encourage Black people, and I'm going to do it myself. If you don't have strong ties to your family in the South and you want to learn more about yourself, I encourage you to travel there. Like I'm going to do that. I'm going to travel and I'm going to see.
Yes.
Do you remember, or have you ever seen, I shouldn't assume, movie Crooklyn?
No.
What? Oh, okay.
I will say if it's sad, if it is a sad movie, I probably intentionally avoided it.
It's great. It's a Spike Lee movie.
Oh,
it came out like the 90s.
It was like the 90s. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Like when I was born.
Yeah. So that's okay. But anyways, it kind of speaks this about a Black family growing up in Brooklyn. And you just made me think about part of that scene is like, you know, the main character is a little Black girl, and her mother sends her down to the South to stay the summer with her aunt. It's like some of my type family. Yeah. But that was like an example of stuff I think used to be real common back in the day. Yes. My dad tells me stories, you know, he grew up in Southside Chicago. But every summer, you know, his uncles or him would get sent down to Mississippi to stay for the summer, you know, kind of like we kind of connect to those roots. So what you're saying has been done before in our past by our family members. I think that's something that we should pick up and do again. You know what I'm saying?
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, I get why, my mom didn't do it. Like, she had a lot going on when I was growing up, and she had 11 kids. Like, who can afford 11 plane tickets?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Because the only person who was doing that was the Kevin's mom on
that
one movie. Like,
I said
Home Alone,
my dad said that it was only like 2 or 3 because he had 11 brothers and sisters. He said it only be 2 or 3 of us could go with so even they had to switch out.
Oh, rotating them through. Okay,
my grandma
that's an idea. She could have done 6 to 6. No, but there's parts of our history and our culture that we really want to keep going, and I think that's one of them. Having that connection to the South and knowing about our history, a lot of that does come through travel, and I'm just so grateful to y'all. I love everything that you're doing with your show.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Here tonight was really what things like that, how we benefit to people. This is a resource that's what really keeps us going.
So I remember when we first started, we're like, we're gonna do this every weekend. If there's 2 viewers, it doesn't matter because we know it's like people need it because that's what we needed when we moved here. So we're like, we just want to be getting that resource for people coming up to the Pacific Northwest, and now we hope to help as many people as we can.
If nobody watches, at least we got like a pretty dope like diary. You know what I mean? Documenting memories for us.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. That's gonna be so cool. That's amazing.
See how we changed. Like I think we watched a few, like one of our first episodes. I was like, oh my god, like I feel so much younger. That's a totally different movie. It's wild.
I think I might have had hair.
I think you had a little bit.
Yeah, a little hair.
You got fully shaved.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
that's so cool. It's like you get to chronicleize this, and honestly, that's a lot of why I started my podcast too, because we're not just doing it for our families. When you're Black, and you're doing a thing for the people, you're doing it for the people. So it's like, even for me, I had the same thought. I was like, even if 2 people watch this right now, even if no one watches it my entire lifetime, and then one day one of my descendants finds this, it will go.
And it's history too. Like, like 50 to 100 years later, they might go back and say, remember this podcast when we were talking about something? Like, because I think back on like articles we read, or like books that we like find that were like from hundreds of years ago. It's just like, you really never know. So it's like, historical record.
This might be the version of the pyramids, right? Like, so when they were discovering pyramids, they dug the ground because we lived on the earth. But now we live in this digital space. So 100 years from now, if everybody's, instead of mining in the dirt, they're going to mine in this digital space and find these videos and find these podcasts. And so I think, you're absolutely right. That is a high chance that what we do today, even if nobody's watching right now as much as we would like, it still can hold some value years later.
Absolutely. Yes. And it's so cool to be like, we know of the Green Book from the past, now it's Traveling While Black, in the future, maybe someone Black is going to make a video about what planets are best for Black. So like, it'll continue to evolve. And, going back.
Right.
Exactly.
Black on Mars.
Black on Mars. Exactly. And before the Green Book, I'm sure our people were still spreading the word, in the ways they could. I even think, the Underground Railroad, like that is a part of Traveling While Black. Like, into freedom while Black. This is the route to take. So there's so many like golden threads that just go through our community throughout time with this interconnected thread. I'm overcome by the beauty of our people, the brilliance.
I was just thinking, you said, Underground Railroad, that's that Candace Taylor. We just bought her a book, Candace Taylor. She wrote, she's like a Green Book expert, Green Book expert. But her new book we just bought is called The Overground Railroad, talking about how the Green Book was really like the underground railroad.
Yeah. Yeah, that connection is like so clear.
Yeah,
So clear.
yeah.
Oh, man, I just love our people so much. I just
Yeah.
like everything that we're doing right now, like this is archivable. Like the period of history that we're living through right now, we all know is very notable. Like we've been in a notable point of history actually our whole lives. And so absolutely what we're choosing to do right now matters. And what we're choosing to do right now is, is really positive. It's something that people can benefit from today, tomorrow, and forever. And I'm just grateful to be able to have conversations like this with people like you who care about our community, who care about yourself, and that self-love is able to shine through you as love for our entire community, as love for all of Washington, all of the Pacific Northwest. Like you really are just putting us all on the map in a way that I don't think Black people like have been put on the map in the Pacific Northwest. Like are like, yeah, like Black travelers, come on. Black travelers, Black people out here experiencing the world, like that's not something that Seattle is known for. So this is huge.
Yeah. It's wrestling, man. Dang, it really made us feel good about us. So I tell you what,
It's like a crazy.
she might call us the healing studio.
Yes, because I am also on my self-love journey, and I'm finding that as I get to know myself and I get to know my people and I take pride in those things and I pour into myself, I want to pour into people who I see. Like I see y'all. I see what you're doing. I appreciate it deeply. And there's, what we're doing, it could be seen as surface level. It could just be seen as, three Black people talking to each other, giving each other props, but it's not that. Like this is something deeper, and I just want to acknowledge it. I want to acknowledge the gravity of what you're doing in real time while you're doing it.
Thank you so much. It's yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, is there anything else that we haven't said about traveling while Black that needs to be said?
Think.
Any last tips for travelers?
Just go out and do, what I mean, and take your time. Start with a little day trip. See what happens, and don't, and I meant to say this earlier because I think like sometimes with the travel movement, people can say, oh yeah, if you just do domestic travel, that's not cool enough. You have to go and see all these extravagant places to be like a traveler, and that definitely is not the case, and don't put that pressure on yourself like with your budget because I know it could be expensive to travel. It's not cheap, right? Yeah. So just start small and do those and just do things that you enjoy and around here, and then as you build it up, do those things. So don't put the pressure on yourself.
Don't put the pressure on yourself
to spend every dollar to like travel.
Not in this economy.
Exactly.
I would say a tip I would have is that we do our show, of course, and we kind of share our perspective. But like you said, man, everybody has their own perspective. So if you are the vlogging type, the sharing social media type, when you go to these places, share your experiences if that's what you do. But I just want to say that is important too, because the more perspectives we have on these places, even if it's the same place, I think it's better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It not only to encourage people, but it also adds more validity and more thought and depth to kind of the analyzing of these places. Yeah. Especially if we're looking at through a lens of safe Black travel. So that's what I would say. Share your adventures with the rest of the community so that we all can encourage each other to keep getting out.
Yeah, actually that's huge because I also like that. I like to know like not only that Black people are there, but like I want to know how many Black people be traveling to this destination that I want to know. Like, are Marlie and Anthony going to be the only other Black people there? And then like, what if I? Then I'm the only Black person.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a different experience too. Like being the only Black person there, it might feel comfortable. Like, okay, these people are cool, but then you're the only one, so that might you might be a little nervous as well. But like,
Yes. So share.
Yeah. No. And then we can go check it out too. Or if you have like a bad experience, let us know as well. We could say, okay, this might not be the spot for us.
Yeah. All of us.
Yeah. All of us together.
Yes, because we are all in this together, and all Black people, I feel comfortable saying this. You can't speak for all Black people. Most Black people want safe travel. I don't know. Somebody might be out there looking for problems, but I think most of us just want to
all the vision goes viral. Like, what?
Over 500 hours. What clip?
Yeah, so most Black people, all the Black people I've encountered, they want safe, fun, peaceful travel. So
and I tell you, they're not just Black people, humans. Right?
Yes, exactly.
We want to go. We don't want to.
Yeah, they said spend your money. You have a good travel. Is supposed to be fun and relaxing. That's the one thing that is out of life. Travel, you're supposed to have a good time, right? And so you want to have a good time, and that's being safe is the number one way to have a good time. So,
Yes. How can people in the real world follow you, reach you, book you if they want to pay for you to come out and tell Black people how it is to be in their space?
Thank you. So our Instagram, let me start over. How to find us. First, like our website in general is travelingwhileblackseattle.com. Typically, if you're like, I'm not on Instagram or anything, just if you Google traveling while Black, you should be able to find our website and our social media channels. That's the first thing. Our YouTube channel is Traveling While Black. Our Instagram is Travel While BLK. We just changed it from TWB Seattle. TikTok as well, Traveling While BLK. But most of the time, if you just search Traveling While Black, Marlie and Anthony, Traveling While Black, Seattle, you'll find us as well.
And also on our website, you can find more details on how to bring this out, whether to speak or to even any of locations like destination marketing organizations are interested in bringing this out to showcase their city. We have information on our website on how to do that.
Yeah.
Yes. Y'all. Okay, find them. Okay, if you like travel, find them. Thank you so much for sharing your time and energy with me today. It's been such a pleasure to speak to you more in depth. They be out here, so I've seen them in real life, but we have not had this much time to really speak and to get to know each other. So it's really been a pleasure. I thank you so much, y'all. This has been another wonderful, enriching conversation on the Hot Girls Healing Podcast. I hope that it fed you something, and I'll see you next time. I'm Salenna Green. Okay, I'm gonna stop the recording.
Since I know you're tired, since I know you're stressed, you were always favored and you were always blessed. It's all about that. Hot girls healing. We doing it our way. Hot girls healing. We better day by day. Hot girls healing. We doing it our way. Hot girls healing. And it goes on and on. And when it all goes wrong, we'll celebrate so nothing's gonna hold us down. And it goes on and on. The healing takes it all. But we are proud and strong. Nothing's gonna hold us down. Hot girls healing. Hot girls healing.